Should be live. Let me look here.
And we are
Waiting,
live.
waiting, waiting. Good evening, lunatics, and welcome to another fun-filled episode of the Blue Ribbon Podcast. It's episode 177. I've been working on trucks all day, so I got my ass bowled for about 5 hours today. So I'm running about half a tank. I promise you, I'm not in anywhere near as bad shape as I was at the hotel the other night, but I am hanging by a thread. So if I put my head down on this microphone and go sleep, y'all just leave me alone. Um,
Well,
so so before we get into, we'll bring in our sponsors and all that stuff later, but the tales that we have to tell y'all this week, because we were supposed to have kind of a special episode. I was thinking about bringing the Blue Ribbon drivers on here because Larry was leaving Tuesday morning to fly to Reno to go to BCO days, and he was going to be getting back today, right?
no, yesterday,
Yesterday.
Saturday. Yeah,
Oh, you're right. This is Sunday.
this is Sunday.
So Larry was going to be unavailable for the podcast. So I'm thinking, scrambling around, what am I going to do? And I thought, well, I'll bring the drivers in. And what was it? Wednesday? He called me. He says, "You'll never."
No, I think it was Thursday when I called you.
Was it?
I think so. Yeah,
He's,
because Wednesday I was still dealing with it. Wednesday.
yeah. So Thursday he calls me and he says, "Well, you tried to fly on Tuesday, or you flew on Tuesday."
Correct. Yeah, I
So
spent
it
the
was
night in Chicago on
right.
Tuesday night.
So it was Wednesday. I'm completely confident in my belief that Larry Long is in Reno, and he's rubbing elbows with the Landstar royalty. He's kicking ass and taking names. He's fighting people about 1099. He's probably been in a fist fight at this point over a 1099. Um, you know, drink consume copious amounts of bourbon, right?
Yeah,
He says, "You'll never believe where I'm
that
at."
would have been the case. Yeah,
And
yeah.
and
Had I
given
been
that
there.
information, when he says, "You'll never believe where I am," I'm thinking, I probably don't want to know the answer to this question. He said, "I'm in a rental car on my way back home from Cincinnati, from
Oh,
Chicago.
Chicago. Yeah.
So why don't you take it away?" And because so there was no Reno trip. Larry did not go to Reno. He did not meet Lane
I
Star
chose not to
royalty.
go because I was going to get there with about 4 hours left of BCO days, and so I saw no reason to go. So I canceled. Well, let me tell you the whole story. So I'm flying out of Cincinnati. Drove to Cincinnati, and I took a flight from Cincinnati to Chicago, and then I was going to do a Chicago to Reno. Well, my flight from Cincinnati to Chicago was 3.5 hours late, which obviously made my connection in Chicago not happen. And there's only two flights a day to Reno from Chicago, evidently. And so, seeing that in Cincinnati, we went ahead and I went to the customer service desk, and we went ahead and we they moved me to an American Airlines flight that would get me to Reno at like 9 o'clock in the morning, which that was fine with that.
What
That
what
would
was
work.
it? What was the name of that desk again?
It was actually, it was a customer service desk. Yes, yes, customer relations or something to that effect. And of course, there's I mean, I I don't know what happened, and this was long before Labor Day. Now this was like Tuesday, so it wasn't Labor Day. It wasn't all this mess. But anyway, so they're like, okay, well, we'll help you get booked on another flight and da 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 da. So they put me on an American Airlines flight. I was flying United, by the way, and put me on American. So I walk, and y'all been to ORD or O'Hare. I mean, I'm in one terminal, and of course, the American Airlines terminal is, you know, 10 miles away. So I go all the way over to the American Airlines terminal and check in with my United stuff and explain this situation. And I look up, and their flight is 4 hours delayed. I'm like, well, fuck, that's not going to help me at all. So I didn't even check in. I didn't even check in. So I went back to the United counter, 10 miles this way. I tell them, I said, look, there's no sense me taking the American Airlines flight. It's going to get there after yours is. So there's just no sense. So there's nothing can be done that night. So I went ahead and got on the flight to Chicago, get to Chicago, I don't know, really, really late. And, and I concerned myself about that American Airlines thing in my baggage. Okay. And I said, well, did you know how I know that my bags are not on that American Airlines? Well, no, we take care of that for you. Not a problem. Here's you can just hold on to this receipt. And so they sent me to a hotel, and I have to get up at 2:30 in the morning in order to be there for a 5 o'clock flight to Reno. And I was going to get there and be there like around 9 o'clock or so local time. And I get over there, and that flight's canceled. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So I'm, trying to do everything I can to find a flight to get to Reno, and it just doesn't exist. I mean, I could get there, but I can't get there in time for it to be worth the trip. And so I said, look, screw it. I'm just going to rent a car. I'm going to drive. Well, I'll try to get a flight back home. I couldn't even get a flight back home until midnight that night. Okay. I had to go to Dallas and then from Dallas back to Kentucky. And I'm like, hell, I can drive home in 5 hours.
God Almighty.
So I go rent a car and I drive home. And I'm driving home and I'm thinking about my bags and everything because nobody knows where they are. So before I left O'Hare, I had to file a claim for my luggage. Okay. Because nobody knows nobody can tell me where it is at all. Because United says this with American Airlines. American says, well, you never checked in here. You're not an American Airlines customer or not customer, but what the hell, passenger. You're a United passenger. Like, this is not going to end up well. So I get all the way home. I stop. Anticipating this, I stop at the Cincinnati airport on my way home to just check on my shit. Okay. And I did find a guy there that wanted to be helpful. He tried his best to be helpful, but unfortunately, everything that came out of his mouth was a lie. So as much as he wanted to help me, he just could not help himself. So he files his claim for me, and he goes, "Well, look, we'll put this claim in, and you check back in, a couple hours, and check back tomorrow. If you have anything today, check back tomorrow." And I have this little tracking thing. Well, the tracking thing was useless. The only place my luggage was scanned was in Cincinnati. It never was scanned anywhere else. So I'm like, this is not going to work out very good. So I come on home. So the next day, I call. Next morning, I call and I'm like, "Hey, I've got this situation where I've got a United bag receipt, but I know for a fact that the luggage got sent to American Airlines, and we don't know what happened yet." And I kept persisting. I said, why don't we get a hold of? Is there American Airlines equivalent of you in Reno?" "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah." "Well, can we call them maybe and just for the giggles and shits?" "Well, I'll put you on hold and I'll call them." Okay, so I said, "Okay, good." So she calls him and she comes back on. She goes, "Well, guess what? Your bag was scanned at 5:01 a.m. yesterday morning in Reno, and they have your bag." I'm like, "Well, that's fantastic. I have a question. How could you get my bag there at 5:01 and not get me?" Well, she couldn't answer that. Obviously that was way above her pay grade.
Yeah.
But it's funny how my bags got to Reno and basically on time, but I could not. Um, so anyway, I said, "Well, how can I get them here?" "Well, we'll put them on a rush order, and we'll get them sent back to where you left from." I said, "Well, let me ask you a question. I had to drive 80 miles to get there. Can you just send them to the airport in my town, LAX?" She goes, "Yeah, yeah, we can do that. We'll send them to LAX, no problem." She took all the information down. So this was like Thursday, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Thursday. So every day I get this text from United saying we're desperately looking for your bags. Da, 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 da. We'll let you know when as soon as we find them. So today, just on a hunch, I thought, you know what, I'm going to go over to the airport. So I go over there today, and the United counter's there, and I explained to them. They're like, "Well, we don't know where your bags are. We just don't know where they are yet. I mean, just we'll let you know when we find them." I'm thinking to myself, okay. I look down there by the baggage, and there's a United and a Delta and American Airlines customer baggage assistance desk.
Mm.
Customer bag, yeah. So I go to the American Airlines, and I explain this whole thing, okay. And she's looking at me like, "Are you crazy? You're looking for a bag that was checked in at United at the American." I said, "Just trust me when I tell you this. It was scanned in Reno at 5:01 a.m. on Wednesday morning. I can promise you that. It's in your system somewhere." So she looks and looks and looks and looks and looks. She can't find it. Now, I'm before I went redneck, I just said, "I have a question. Okay. Do you store these bags in like a room or something? She goes, yeah, it's right here. I said, do you mind if I look in there? She goes, no, not at all. She opened the door and the first thing I saw was my bag sitting there. And it had a rush tag on it. I wish I brought the tag in. I do have the tag. I do have the tag.
That's awesome.
Rush. Does that say
It
rush
says
to you?
100%. That absolutely says rush.
So this whole process, I had to do the work for everyone. Now, I left out some little details here because there was a lot of people that were that were displaced by this, 3.5 hour late because the plane was full and everybody missed their flight. So everything that I was told from anybody behind a desk that said customer assistance or customer service or customer this, not one thing that I was told ended up to be true. Not one thing.
Mm-hmm.
All the way up to today. Not one thing did customer service ever do. I'm the one that found this bag. If it weren't for me, this bag would be in Reno somewhere, and I would never see it again. But I solved every problem for United Airlines, for American Airlines, in 4 places.
I'm convinced that had you not gone into that room, your bag would have ended up at that place in Alabama, that unclaimed baggage, and there'd be some homeless guy
or that guy in the Biden administration that wears a red lipstick.
There'd be some homeless guy wearing blue ribbon polo shirts.
They asked me what was in it. Is there anything valuable in it? He goes, well, not really. There's a pair of shoes and belts and pants and shirts and toiletries. I mean, anything that was really valuable I had in my carry-on.
Right.
And I'll tell you something else. I never checked baggage, never. But I knew I had this long layover and I didn't want to screw with them. And so I thought, you know what? I'm just going to check them and not have to deal with it. Well, I'll never do that again.
Yeah. You learned that lesson.
But I said, there is one thing in there that I can't replace. I said, my blue ribbon logo shirts, we do a different one every year, and all of mine are in there, and I'll have a hell of a time replacing those. So, but anyway, I end up getting them back today. So,
well, that's kind of our theme is talking about customer service or lack thereof. Now, one place you don't have to worry about customer service is Pittsburgh Power. We call that a segue in the business.
Is that what we do?
Yeah. We've been sponsored by Pittsburgh Power for over a year now, and we're glad to have a great partner like them. We're stocking distributors of the max mileage fuel-borne catalyst and OPS, oil purification system, which I installed my first one. Just did a TikTok about it the other day. A little less scary than I kind of thought it was going to be. A little time consuming, but not too bad. And if I can do it, anybody can do it. So shout out to Pittsburgh Power. Listen, if you have an issue that nobody else can find, and you can't go to Carl Bonecutter, you go to Pittsburgh Power. I mean, they've got electrical engineers on staff, and if you have a bizarre problem, they can certainly find it and fix it. And we're going to be taking the truck up there. Well, we were going to be taking the truck up there until the driver called me the other day and it was on fire. So, and that's another reason why we didn't have a podcast Friday night, because by the time I got up there and got that truck picked up and I started doing the math, my trip plan, and I wasn't going to land till 10:30. So I stumbled in the door about 11 o'clock Friday night. So, wow, it's been a week.
Yeah, it's been a rough week, a lot's going on this week.
Oh, very much.
I can't even remember all the details now, but
well, we had one. So we've been chasing what we thought was an oil cooler issue, getting oil in the coolant, and changed the cooler, and then it did it again, and then we confirmed a bad cooler, which parts being bad out of the box, that anything like that ain't never happened.
Right.
Well, it did it for a third time. The third time, no more coincidences. So I talked to our engine guru down in Florida, and he said he thinks we probably got a cracked liner, and even a possibility that the combustion pressure is getting into the oil system and blowing the coolers up. So, so that truck's going to need a motor. So I'm going to get to tow it to Jacksonville here for long.
Just
So
think
yeah,
of all the money we've saved already by buying this toter.
dude, it's in the thousands of dollars.
Oh, absolutely.
Thousands.
After paying for it, it's still in the thousands of dollars.
Yeah. Definitely the best purchase we've ever made.
And it absolutely is. Absolutely is. Well, we got some questions here if you want to take some
Yeah,
of
let's
them.
see here.
On YouTube, we got, here's one.
Rodney.
Any opinions on a 97 kW T2000 C12 motor? Well, that's not the great. 18 speed with 293 gears.
I would,
Well,
I would double, triple confirm those gear ratios, because back in the late 90s, nobody, not even Schneider, was doing 293s. My concern that would be a 393.
yeah.
I mean, it could be, but in order to run a 293, you're going to have a direct drive 18 speed.
Right.
Hell,
Yeah, you
I
need
don't
to know
even
more about this transmission. You need to know what the final drive ratio is,
Yeah.
or you need to get the model number where we can find out. And with it being a 97, you need to make sure it's not been swapped out, because that could have been changed.
Yeah. The
You know,
C12.
the C12, we're not crazy about that.
Well, and listen, I'm going to confirm that too, because in 97, the C's hadn't even come out yet. That should be a 3406E.
Should be a 3406Z. Exactly right. Yeah.
Because the 6NZ, the C12, C15, C16, I don't even think they rolled out until 2000. Because the ISX, I think, came out in 2000. So there's just, for me, I drove some T2000s. They're really good riding trucks. I think I drove a 97 T2000 at U.S. Express.
I mean, it's aerodynamic. That part of it's fine. I'm like I say, I'm a little confused about some of the other specs.
Yeah, a lot of question marks there, because if somebody transplanted a C12 in for a 3406, my first question is why?
Why?
Why? And I thought, I could be completely wrong about this, I thought the C12 was an emission motor. Am I making that up?
No, I think C13 is the emission motor.
No, they didn't have a C13. Well, let me go to the book of knowledge.
Yeah, they did too.
Well, I mean, they had.
I don't know. I'm not a cat guy. You're asking the wrong guy.
Right.
I'm just
well, they
going
did
from what
not
I've heard people
have
say.
Caterpillar. They had the C12, the C15, commercial or C12
Well, what
engine's
we can do,
good.
We can consult the book of knowledge right here.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. Rocky's in here somewhere. Okay, Buster said he had a C13. I thought the
C13
C12 Acert 12 valve cylinder engine. Well, anyway, I have never heard of a truck that old having.
The Acert was a 2004 model year. That was the first EGR. On a
right,
cat.
But the
C12, C13. When did C13 came out?
But the C's came out in like 2000, because that's when the 6NZ, late 99 maybe.
The 3406E. It was the 99's the last year. The last year they made the 3406.
Okay. See, that a 97 Kenworth anything should have a 3406, or what's that other one?
Okay, here we go. 6NZ was 98 to 2002. 9NZ or C15 was 98 to 2002. The Bridge was 98 2002, and the C15 Acert was 98 2002.
Okay.
So,
yeah, unless that was a late 97 that maybe could have got an early C12, But again, Rodney, I'm still going to go to Freightliner is the easiest to work on, the easiest to find parts for, the most economical if you're buying your first truck. Now, I know Rodney's been in our comment section for a long time, so I can't remember all of his details. But I'm probably going to go away from away from that.
I'm going to pass.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pass on.
Shahnawaz Ali, do I need insurance before I go buy my first truck?
Yes.
Well,
Yeah. Well, two things. There's two kinds of insurance. You have to. I mean, you have to have liability. I mean, there's no option there. You can't drive any kind of vehicle without liability insurance.
right.
If you're not financing it and you don't owe anybody money, you don't have to have physical damage on it because you're taking a risk there. But if you're borrowing money against it, you've got to have that too. But you do have to have unladen liability, bobtail insurance, to legally drive the truck anywhere. So,
but a lot of times it's difficult to get the bobtail physical damage unless you're leased to a carrier. The insurance carrier is going to want you to show them that you've been qualified by someone. Now, when you come to Landstar and you qualify the truck and get it in the system, once it's in the system, it's insured.
One of the reasons why I buy the toter is this very thing, because it's such a pain in the ass to find insurance on a vehicle that you don't have licensed or a tag on it. And with the toter, we can just haul it. We don't have to drive it. So that's part of the reason, probably 50% of the reason why we bought the toter. But there are a couple of companies out there. Somebody on one of the other shows mentioned a company. I also know that if you're I'll not say be dishonest, but if you go to Progressive and sign up for a year, you can do it, and then you can always cancel at any time. I didn't say you didn't need to do that, but you take that for what it's worth. So,
he has a follow-up. Can I buy a truck when prices are low? Sure. Keep working for the company I work for and not use it till the market is good. Sure.
Yeah,
sure you can.
absolutely.
You just have a place to put it.
Yeah.
Heaven, Lunatic Airlines with Richie Matthews as the head flight attendant.
Oh, God, flight attendant?
Yeah.
Richie doesn't wear short enough skirts for that.
Let's see.
Oh, gosh.
Matthew says Pittsburgh's a long way from Wyoming. Yeah, well, it is. But, now Pittsburgh Power does remote tuning. They have a lot of shops all over the country. Hell, they did one for me where they used TeamViewer to log into the Detroit software from the local shop, and he was looking at my truck as I was driving it down the road. Leon found a 02 FLD in Utah with a 12.7, 18 speed, 292 rears, liftable front axles, rear stacks, internal air cleaners. That's going to be a good truck, but again, to the practicality. FLDs are a lot harder to find parts for these days. If it's a condo, if it's got full fairings, full skirts, the aerodynamics, it's not like a classic. But it just comes back to the practicality of trying to find parts for an FLD. It's not that you can't find parts, but generally, think about it. When we're looking for parts, we're usually in a pickle, and so that's why I stick with the C120 platform, the Columbian Century. They made those up through 2020, 21 as gliders. So all of the body parts, are not hard to come by.
Yeah.
Well,
there's a CMC friend of mine, Jackie Wormley, who's in the Facebook group, and she literally just bought. She had so much trouble getting parts for her FLD. She bought a newer version of it, So, and that's the reason why she couldn't get parts for it. So,
and Rocky brings up a good point. The suspension under that 97 kW could be an absolute deal breaker. There were some suspensions that they had back then that are absolute junk. And it's like $12,000 to swap it over. So, 10 count stories. Made an appointment with Jim in Michigan for an MD alignment. Told him Larry at Blue Ribbon sent me and said, you got to be driving a Columbia or Coronado if you're listening to Larry. We all both laughed. Matthews, the C12 is to the 31. Oh, here we go. This is what I was looking for. C12 is to the 3176 as what the C15 is to the 3406.
Okay.
C12 is known as a good engine as long as you rebuild them at 800,000. and C13 is the emission engine.
Okay.
So
Thanks for. See, we shouldn't be talking about shit we don't know anything about, and I
Right.
know nothing about a cat.
And okay, and Rocky said some C13 in trucks, mostly in the Class A pushers, the motorhomes. I think that's what
Okay.
Kevin had. or
Kevin has a C13 in his motorhome. That's
Yeah.
correct. Yeah.
Steve LaPlante, thank you so much for the seminar. 2 weeks. It was a great experience. Learned with you both and in the lot with Rocky. The event should be 4 days long because we have too much to
Thanks,
discuss.
Steve.
Listen, Steve, if you'll pay
that's a firm hell no. Okay.
if you'll pay triple, we'll have a 4-day event.
I don't even know about that. It took me a week to get over the 2 days. So, well, thank you for that for the compliments. We enjoyed having you, Steve. Enjoyed meeting you.
Josh's Trucking Adventures. I've been trying to get our company to use max mileage. We have PACCAR motors, yuck, which are good, but they're having injector issues. Every 23 to 24 PACCAR has said there's a Band-Aid use injector cleaner. Yuck, 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 yuck. I need to step over to the tweeter right quick and see if this thing's actually working, because we're supposed to be live on the tweeter on X. Hey, looks like it's working. We are.
I can't verify that.
Well, I can. It didn't work with a dam last week.
If there was good bourbon in that bag, I bet you'd have a search posse out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't pack bourbon in my suitcase, unfortunately.
Let me see. Let me look over here to TikTok. Who in Jacksonville do you use to rebuild? Guy named Junior.
That's not his name of the shop, though.
Yeah.
What's the name of the shop?
Crowder's Fleet Maintenance.
Crowder's Fleet. Yeah.
When do y'all think the trucking market is going to fix itself? Like 2 to 3 years? No, it's already.
No.
If you look at,
it's already fixing itself.
Craig Fuller this week tweeted a graphic from Sonar that showed that May 13th was the bottom. And from it was the 13th or 14th, but May was the bottom, and everything has been trending up from then to now.
Rejection rates are way, everything's looking good. If we could just get fuel to go up, my God, we could get $6 a gallon fuel, we'd be back. We'd be back. So.
Well, and listen, that they're talking about masks and shit again. It ain't going nowhere. But I'm thinking, hey, bring it on. Why don't y'all go ahead and destroy the economy one more time, and we'll be in great shape.
I'll tell you who's not going to lock down. Anything that's got blue ribbon on the side of it. I promise you that.
For 100%. We're still locked down the first time.
We might have to put a big mask across the grill.
Yeah, that'd be hilarious.
We should do that.
Drone Trucker, I have a 02 International 9200i with an N14 Select Super 10 transmission. I want to upgrade. Well, let me remind myself what a 9200i looks like.
I don't see this comment. Where you at?
It's on TikTok.
Oh, I see it. Okay.
Well, no, that's a good truck. Now, it might be a flat top or something.
The Select is great. That's the motor. Okay.
The N14's great. I've always heard that you need to run a fast system because if you keep the injector super clean, you don't have problems. But the 9200 is a good truck. Now, depending on if it's a flat top or mid roof or something, and you might have some fuel mileage issues there. But I mean, now's the time if you want to buy a used truck. The values have come down quite a bit. But I mean, I would run a full if I'm pulling a van, I would run a full condo 9200. Those are good
Not
trucks.
crazy about the Super 10, but that's just me.
Yeah. Well, and I would say if you got a Super 10, you probably got 390s.
That's what I'm worried about.
So there's a lot more to the specs of that truck that we need to know. Elguero, I had a DD15 and my CPC4 went bad. I couldn't program it because it was deleted. Bad decisions. Whew. Yep.
Yeah, I agree with all that.
Look, we talk about this all the time. We will not, under any circumstances, delete a big truck. Now, pickup truck, I'll delete that sumbitch so fast it'll make your head spin, But I'm not using it for business. Success in business is about managing risk. deleting emissions off of a big truck is too risky. It's a short-term solution to a problem now that can be fixed.
Yeah.
We can manage emission systems these days. But deleting it it's just not a solution. And by the way, you know, I'm into all these gearhead YouTubers, and there's a guy down in Florida called JH Diesel. He's not really high performance. He's a diesel shop, works on diesel pickup trucks. He was on a podcast with Cooper Baghetti, and it was just interesting to listen to him tell this story. He said, well, I got my fine. I mean, like he was waiting on it in the mail from the EPA. It was $180,000. And he got the fine because he was selling some product. And the reason they knew about him is because they had already raided the people making the product. And of course, they did deletes. And he said a couple things interesting. One of them was, he said, it used to be we had all these happy customers because the customer would come in and they were having problems with their truck, and we would delete it, and they would call back and they were so happy, and we're getting 5 more miles per gallon, and a truck runs great now. And now that they can't do it anymore because of the fine, they call, the customer calls like, well, you know, thanks, truck, I mean, it runs, you know. But he's talking about 6-month waiting times for V8 diesels, Duramaxes, Power Strokes. That, I mean, we think we've got it bad. If you have a damn pickup truck and you're trying to do diesel stuff with it. And the other thing interesting he said was when he got into the lawyers and all this stuff with dealing with this EPA stuff, they said, well, your fine's $180,000, but if you pay it in 90 days, it's 12 grand or 20 grand or something like that. And he was like, well, you know, what if I don't do that? Can I put the 20 grand on a payment plan? They're like, nope, you've only got a week or 2 or 3 weeks or whatever it was. And he was like, well, what if I don't do that? And they're like, oh, well, it could be more. Well, how much more? We don't know. I mean, it's just, the whole thing is just a complete cluster. And they've been going after these small independent shops. And JH is known for doing super high quality work. He's kind of like a Pittsburgh Power kind of place, you know. But here he was just trying to serve his customers, just trying to give them a good outcome with what they, you know, with what they needed. And he got $180,000 fine, you know, for doing it. So,
yeah,
it's crazy.
That's why we don't do it.
I got to think about something else along these lines, okay, of customer service. And, you know, we hear a lot of complaints from truck drivers about their employment situation, about their ability to earn money, their ability to find loads, their ability to get good rates. And we don't have any of those problems. Our average loaded rate per mile for 2023 is $3.34. Okay, so the rates hasn't affected us at all. But I was thinking the other day, there's never been a time in my life where my belly started growling and I needed something to eat, and I've never one time thought, you know what, I bet there's a server somewhere that really needs a table to wait on. Let me go out to the restaurant. No, because I'm there to satisfy my hunger. I've never, when I worked in a warehouse and I was preparing a shipment, I never thought, man, I bet some poor truck driver just really could use a load. Let's ship this today instead of tomorrow because there might be a truck driver somewhere that needs this load. No, never thought about the truck driver, never cared about the truck driver, because all I wanted was to move my freight. I just wanted to go sit in a restaurant and a meal. I wanted to go buy something. The truck driver mentality that thinks, oh, I know what sent me down this road. It was a Landstar post the other day. Why do these agents wait till the end of the day to post good loads. Why don't they post them earlier in the day when we can get to them? And I said, because the loads aren't for you. The loads don't exist for you. The customers aren't there for you. It's the other way around. You exist for the company, for the customer. You book loads when the loads are available. And if that's at the end of the day, which we call that the 4 o'clock hustle, when you're in a down rate environment, think about it for a second. Put yourself in the position of the customer. Put yourself in the position of the broker. They're going to hold out all day for the lowest rate that they can move the load for. But if the phone don't ring, those rates will start going up about 4 o'clock in the evening. We call it the 4 o'clock hustle. There's people that build entire business models around the 4 o'clock hustle. They'll sit there all day until right at the last minute, and they'll call and find that broker when they're desperate. And that's when they need to move the load. And that's when they'll give you that extra $300, $500, $1,000 when they're really, really struggling and hurting for a truck. So when I saw that, I thought, man, this is a great sign that, the 4 o'clock hustle's been enacted. That means that the capacity has tightened up and rates are going to improve. What's this right here? I really think Landstar cares more about their agent than the drivers. They canceled my load without calling me. Okay, Landstar didn't cancel anything, nor did the agent. The customer probably canceled that load, or the broker found a cheaper truck. But Landstar is nothing more than a tent. It's a big tent, a payment processing system, if you will, that allows you to run your business any way you want to run it, and allows agents to run theirs any way they want to run theirs. But you're not owed in business. Doesn't matter if you're a plumber, if you're flipping hamburgers, or if you're operating a truck. You're the servant. You're the guy that goes and makes things happen when someone needs it to happen. But the agents aren't there for you. The agents are there for the customer. Now, they connect you to the customer, but the agents don't exist to serve you. They are your customer.
And by the way, neither does Landstar.
Correct.
That's the fallacy with your complaint, is you think that because you're with Landstar, that Landstar owes you something. And that's farthest thing from the truth. Only thing Landstar owes you is what's in that 62-page document that you signed. And I promise you, nothing in there is about guaranteeing you a load and it not canceling and that agents are worth more. Landstar could care less about whether you're an agent or a BCO. That doesn't matter to them. They're all cogs in the wheel. Just like people that work at the corporate office, they don't, all those things have to work together to make it work. There's no one favorite over the other. Why? What would be the reason? But there's a lot of guys at Landstar that think like you, which is why 40% of them fail every year.
Yep. Listen, I 100% believe.
They canceled. I got to say that again, okay? I just got to say this again. They canceled my load without calling me.
It's not your load.
My goodness. You're being mistreated. It's awful. You probably ought to go get you a pacifier.
Oh, shit. I'm a firm believer that when humans are operating in maximum liberty, they make the best decisions. Because if you're operating at maximum liberty, you understand that there's personal responsibility involved in that. And so, you can make decisions understanding that you are the one that's going to suffer the consequences for whatever that decision. When you're in business, you're last. You are last. The customer's first. You're last. Your family's last. You are last. Every other person that you encounter when you're in business, their needs are greater than your needs.
Boy, I could take off on that one, but I'm not. I don't feel it.
Josh's Trucking Adventures. People forget that stupid decisions result in stupid outcomes. It's a me first mentality. I told guys at the lounge I'll be worth over $1 million as a company driver, and they looked at me like I was crazy. Listen to Dave Ramsey and you guys, and rates won't be a problem. I mean, when I had to call 3 agents this week, we're on a load and the truck catches on fire. Okay, so now the truck's sitting on the side of the road on the get off ramp, and we had just left the shipper. I mean, we're like an hour into this load. It was a great load too, $2,300 for 1 day load. It was like almost $5 a mile. Well, I can't do anything with a truck that won't run, so I called the agent. Hey, we got a big problem here. Truck's on fire, won't run. We need a repower. So I had the truck towed 12 miles to a truck stop to get it off the side of the road. And then I was going to go up there and get him and bring him back here, but the repower, they hadn't found a repower yet. Okay. So that was Thursday, right? So
Yes.
Friday morning, I went straight up to Cam's and I started thrashing on another truck because I knew if they didn't find a repower, we were going to have to repower it ourselves. So I worked about 5 hours putting this truck back together, and I got the call that we had been repowered. I'm like, okay. So I stopped that, hooked up the toter, drove up there, pick him up, bring him back. But I stayed in constant contact with the other agent for the next load. And I texted her and I said, hey, here's the deal. We're broke down. We're trying to find somebody to repower this load. It's going to it pays great, but it's going to nowhere, Wisconsin. And I said, so can I hang on to your load until tomorrow so that the person that repowers it, I can say, hey, I've got this other load, try to sweeten the deal. None of this was my responsibility, but it was the right thing to do. And so I covered the load that we were broke down on. I covered the load after that. Fortunately, I couldn't cover the third one. I tried. But I had him booked up through Wednesday, but I had to tear it all down,
So Chris, I got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Why does Landstar like BCOs more than they like agents? Why would they allow you to pick up a load and within 10 miles break down with your truck on fire?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's the same argument, right? Landstar needs to do something about that. You're 10 miles away from the shipper and you broke down. Why'd you even take the load if you knew that was going to happen?
Yeah. It's just, I mean, I've had experience. I mean, listen, I want y'all to think about something. We have 10 trucks in the system. Okay. I mean, we book 50, 60 loads a week. Wouldn't it stand to reason that we would have 10 times the number of problems that we see posted on Facebook in the Landstar Facebook groups? Shouldn't we have, if somebody needs to fix Landstar or JB Hunt or US Express or whoever it is, right? If somebody's got to fix the carrier because the carrier sucks, why don't I have 10 times those problems? Yet I don't. Ever think of that? Maybe the problem is you don't understand how the system works. Maybe you don't understand how the market works. Maybe you need more context and you need more understanding and you need more education to understand what's happening around you so that you're not just going, well, I want somebody to fix this for me. Nobody's going to fix it for you. It's not going to happen. I don't understand this comment. How are guys like yourself not able to make it if their average rate per mile is $3? Well, there must be something. Lonnie, you're going to have to repost that because I don't understand your question. Steve, from the day I sent my registration to Landstar, how many days till I get a response from Landstar? Will it be by phone or email? It will be email. Okay.
It'll be,
And you better stay on top of that email. Listen, we call it the gauntlet for a
yeah.
reason. It's a 4 to 6 week process to get qualified. But
If you don't, if you don't, let things sit.
yeah,
It can be longer than that if you don't respond. Steve, from your original time you submitted the online application, you should if you I would give recruiting a call if it's been more than 2 or 3 or 4 days. Just call Rockford
yeah,
recruiting and just check on it and make. Did you get a response back that they received your application? That's my first question. And if so, just give them a call after 2 or 3 days and just say, "Hey, I'm just checking on things. I haven't heard from you, and
yeah.
I applied." So that'd be my next step. Is that so?
Well, let me go back to Amigo here on TikTok. So
Uh,
why assign a load to a truck and then cancel while you're 10 miles away from the shipper? What if the product wasn't ready? What if the shipper's building burned down?
what if the customer just changed their mind? You know,
What if the person that ordered the product from that shipper called and said, "Hey, we don't need this. Ship it next week." You think it matters that you're 10 miles away? It doesn't. I've had loads cancel while we're at the shipper. You know what that's called? Truck ordered, not used. I fill out a Landstar bill of lading with a truck ordered, not used. I scan it in like I would any other load, and sometime in the next 6 years, we'll get paid for it. Um, it's not for you. It's Google account by JQL. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's a direct shipper load, an indirect load. You are the service provider. Okay. I used to do satellite installs like 20 years ago, satellite direct TV. Okay. Well, I mean, I could be out and they would call me and say the customer canceled. Okay. Let me go on to the next thing. I don't know why truck drivers think that they're entitled to, just because you got a freight bill. The freight bill is an indication that a transaction somewhere took place, all the way down to the consumer level. I mean, when I go into Walmart and I pick the body wash up off the shelf, okay, and enough people do that, they need to order more. And all of these signals go back from the consumer level all the way back up through the chain, and somebody orders something. But people are capable of making a mistake. I've gone, it's happened, I don't know, 3 times since 2014 that I've been here, that we got there and somebody at the shipper screwed up and they already shipped the load on another truck. Sorry, man, here's your truck ordered, not used. It's $150. Move on with your life. It's, you do not deserve anything except that which you have increased value for someone else. You have done something to make someone else's life better. You have solved someone's problem and you get compensated for that. But when you go into business and you buy a truck, you're not owed anything. You have to go out and work for it. You have to go out and build relationships and talk to people and network. I mean, I've got probably 10 agent phone numbers memorized, that if I see a truck's going to a certain area, I'll be like, hey, I got a guy delivering close to you on Tuesday. Will you let me know if you have a load? Sure. And they either will or they won't. It happened last weekend where I have a shipper who we do loads for her all the time, right? And I had 3 trucks, and I called her and I said, hey, I got 3 trucks, which normally is not a problem. And I even took the loads that were going that direction because I knew I had her to call on. Guess what? You know how many loads they had? 0. Can't do nothing about it except move on, get on the board, start searching for a load, find somebody else that needs a problem solved and go solve it. Drone trucker. I lasted with Landstar for 3 years. I quit. Too many rules. I mean, listen, I kind of don't get that in a way because at Landstar, all you have to do is stay safe and compliant, and they don't care what you do.
And and oh, by the way, those rules are written out in great detail in a 62-page document that you signed when you came to Landstar.
That nobody
So
reads.
the rules you knew about up front, the fact that you didn't read them or you didn't want to do it after 3 years is, and again, we're not in the business of defending Landstar. I mean, I could care less if you come to Landstar or stay at Landstar and never come to Landstar. It's just where we are. We
Hey,
talk about it because that's where we're not
won't you
defending them
won't
in
you tell
any case.
won't you tell them about the Larry Long special you delivered the other day? That's a good one.
I got to think about it. I've had a few this week.
The trailer.
So we're wanting. I bought a 53-foot flatbed and
So
wanted
good.
to wanted to get it on the system. Okay. Now I'm a Landstar approved driver. I'm a CDL holder. Have been since 2008.
And you have 11 pieces of equipment in the system, right?
11. That's correct.
10 trucks in a
And
step
so
deck.
I'm putting on this new trailer in the system, trying to get it into the Landstar system. And and I know the drill. We've put on lots of trucks here. So I mean, I had all my paperwork in line, and I submitted all my paperwork, and I did this on the way to the airport to go to Reno. I want to get it all in there so it'd be working while I'm gone. So I get a phone call at the airport from the young lady. Well, I have no idea.
As
how
if
old
you
it is,
didn't
but
have enough to deal with at that point.
exactly. I'm literally standing in line dealing with this shit, and she's calling me on the phone. And because I saw it was Rockford, so I thought, well, I better answer because it might be safety, So
Yeah.
and she's like, we just want to let you know we got all your paperwork, everything is in line, everything looks great, no problem. We'll get it submitted. So the next day, when I'm dealing with trying to get a rental car and get the hell back out of there, she calls me and says, "Hey, we just want you to know we submitted your thing to Jacksonville for review. Everything's fine, no problem." So I get home, okay, and I think it was the next day. I think this would have been probably Friday, Thursday or Friday.
Yeah.
I can't remember now. All the dates are going together. So I get the call back from this same lady, and she goes, "Well, we got a problem." I thought, well, yeah, I figured that. And she goes, "We can't let you put this trailer on because you don't have you've not been to securement class. You don't have a rating." And I'm like, well, let me start out with this, okay? Because I always have to, y'all talk about Landstar. Well, every time I deal with Landstar, I have to remind them that I'm a fleet owner because I guess we're rare. There's not very many of us, and they're used to dealing with guys like Amigo, okay? And so they don't know how to handle a fleet owner. So they're like, we can't put the trailer on. You got to go securement class first. And I'm like, oh, you don't know what I've been through for the last 3 days. It's not a good day for you to be doing this. All right. I said, so let me start out with this. Okay. I'm a fleet owner. Okay. I've got 10 trucks in the system right now. I just had 11 just recently. And I said, I'm not the driver of I don't even drive anymore.
And
Will you put yourself down as the driver?
And a step deck.
I'm like,
You literally have a step deck in the system.
oh yeah, have a step deck. And so I'm like, again, there's no place on this paperwork to be a fleet. You have to put a truck number down there and your name down there. Well, I just put the truck number down there that I happen to be associated with, because we have to do that so that we got workers' comp insurance on you. So Chris and I both have to be assigned to a truck, even though we don't drive.
Yeah.
That's one of Landstar's rules, by the way, but it's also in that lease agreement, by the way. So I'm like, let me just explain to you, okay? I'm not driving the truck. I'm not going to be the driver. The driver has been to securement class. Matter of fact, he's pulling the step deck right now. And she would not let me explain that to her. And I said, look, you've chosen the wrong day. Okay. Let me explain something to you. And I proceeded to tell her how Landstar needs to, deal with this. And when I got done, it was probably not 2 minutes. And I got a call back. She goes, "It's all fine now. You have a nice day." Like, so, but every once in a while you have to just, you have to let them know, so.
Well, and then 2 weeks ago, they tried to cancel the whole fleet. Because one of our guys completed the program, bought his trucks, becoming a BCO.
Seth is a BCO now, so he took his truck and took it straight on to Landstar. I took it out of our fleet. Well, they had to take his truck out of our fleet. Okay. Well, again, the assumption was that that's my truck and I'm the driver, and we're going to cancel Blue Ribbon Logistics. I'm like, I'd prefer you not do that. I've got 10 other guys here who'd like to keep their job, you know. So you're us fleet. Yeah, I'm a fleet. You know, we don't have, there's no designation at Landstar. You know, there's 10,000 owner operators, probably, I don't know, 30, 40 fleets, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
And fleet being anybody with more than one truck, you know. So every time we deal with Landstar, we have to explain that, you know, that it's not a one truck operation. But it's funny in a way, but it's also aggravating after all this time. And then in these events like this, I was going to be in Reno for BCO days. That's where you air these grievances, you know, and of course, I'm really I'm really good at
Listen,
doing
I
that.
I sent a list, like pinned to his lapel, a list of all these things, you know, uh, and none of it got done because he never made it, you know. But
Well, I'll get my
guys,
chance. So
when I was telling one of our drivers this today. When I was at Schneider in 2007, 2006, my 17-year-old daughter was 6 months old. And I went to Schneider, and of course I've got a new baby. That flips a switch in your head, you know, makes you like start to think about being a responsible human being.
Mhm.
And I went to their orientation in Charlotte. And they had this, usually orientation is like root canals, you know, it's just terrible. But they had this old boy was awesome. And he had a great big sign pointed out with a dot matrix printer that said, "No war stories." And if some truck driver would start telling a war story, he pointed to the picture, no, no war stories.
Yeah.
But he told us in that, he said, listen, there's a micro on the Qualcomm, micro 18. Schneider people testify, okay? Micro 18. And all it did was it said, I'm going to be here at this time with this many hours. This is my projected time of availability. This is my ETA. And these are the number of hours that I used yesterday, the day before, and the day before. No e-logs, none of that stuff. He said, if you guys will just fill this out accurately, you won't have a problem. And I thought, fuck, I'll take that to the bank, right? So I'm a trip planner, right? Always been a trip planner. So I would put this thing in, and I just kept rolling, right? My fleet manager went on vacation for a week, and I thought, oh, well, I'm screwed. I'm going to run 1,000 miles next week. I had the biggest week while he was gone, you know, in the first 6 or 8 weeks that I was there. Biggest week while he was gone, he came back. And I said, man, I don't know what you did, but man, while you were gone, I was kicking ass. He said, dude, it didn't have anything to do with me. He said, you do your micro 18s, and you do them correctly. And the system rewards you because it's all algorithm based. Okay. So when you're dealing with these big companies, you have cubicle land. Okay. And these people in these cubicles, it's like this foreign country, right? And they've got their little country in their cubicle, right? And they don't let anybody in. They don't care what happens outside of their cubicle, what's in their cubicle. If it happens there, it's great. But if it's not, they don't give a shit. Okay, that's cubicle
If
land.
it doesn't belong in their cubicle, they don't care about it.
They couldn't
Believe
care
me, I
less.
understand
And
that,
you
though.
can't beg them to
Yeah.
care, right? And,
Yeah,
well,
no.
listen, I talked to Sue over in the other department, and she said, well, she don't care she couldn't care less, right?
Yeah.
Now, one thing I can credit Landstar with, and I'm being a smartass, I've thought about so many times just going onto the Facebook pages and saying, putting the Jacksonville phone number. Y'all realize if you have a question about a permit, you can literally call the permit department, and Landstar pays someone a salary and benefits and a 401k, and they literally pay them to answer the phone and answer your questions about permits. But you won't call Jacksonville. You'll put the shit on Facebook where somebody will lie to you. At best, they'll just give you wrong information from where somebody lied to them.
Yeah.
When you could just
Yeah,
call.
you're getting an opinion there as opposed to the actual.
You could just call permits. You could call equipment compliance. You could call operator compliance. You could call customer service. You could call BCO advisors. And they'll answer your questions. But no,
Yeah, it's
I'm going to
amazing.
type it on Facebook and have somebody lie to me about it. It's the damnedest thing I've ever seen.
Now, it may take you a while to find the right department. I can,
Well,
you know,
yeah.
you may bounce around a couple of times, but you'll get there. So,
but it's just
Space Shudder. Can I buy a truck, lease it on Landstar, and let you guys operate it? Well, you probably could, but we probably won't. So,
we're just, you got to understand, okay? We're very selective about the people that we do business with, okay? I mean, the crazy thing is the entrepreneurial people see what we do and it's like crystal clear. They're like, oh my God, this makes sense. Oh my gosh, I could do this and do that. And they could, they see the opportunity, right? Truck drivers, we have a little more difficulty getting them to understand the opportunity. And so it's 3-1 people that have trucks that kind of understand. And they're like, oh gosh, what a great model and a great program. And they know how to lower expenses and they know how to raise revenue. They know how to run a business, right? So, I'm not, it's not no, it's probably no. It's probably no. But we've literally told drivers no. I mean, think about that. Someone will fill out an application and we'll do an interview with them and we'll be like, bro, this ain't for you. You shouldn't do this.
we tell more no than we tell yes.
Yeah.
I mean, and we're not full. We've got a couple of trucks that are open, but we know from experience it's not worth doing if you're not fit for the program. It's just a waste of everybody's time. And the same way with truck owners, we're more selective about truck owners than we are drivers because that's a really, really, really difficult relationship. And if you're buying a truck as an investment and you don't really have a lot of history in the industry, it's hard for you to understand things. I know Josh is watching right now because he just posted. Joshua is a multiple truck owner with us, and he's not a driver. As he's got a little history with his family in the business, but he's learning right now. This isn't all roses and and champagne. That truck that burnt down this week is his truck. So it takes a special person to understand what we're doing here, and it's a long game. And
Yeah.
we don't advertise for truck owners. We don't encourage truck owners because we do not take investors. Um, our program started. I started the program of doing these trucks because I kept seeing all these Landstar fleet owners that couldn't keep drivers, and we had excess drivers, and then I needed more trucks, and so I just had the idea. Well, let me take a BCO that has a second truck that's paid for, and weeds are growing all around it, and we'll use it, and we'll put a driver in it, and it'll help everybody. So win-win-win. Well, now we've got people that, because of the podcast, that want to go buy a truck and bring it here as an investment. And we really, really, really don't do that. So we tried a couple of times, didn't work. And so we don't, but, I don't mean to discourage you. You may be the best person and the truck might be the best thing. But in general, I don't like to encourage that because, listen, we get 4 or 5 emails every day wanting to do what you want to do. And we don't even return them. I mean, I just can't do it. It's just not working. So.
Carl Acure on TikTok says, just accepted a position as a VP safety at Forward Air.
Congratulations.
That's probably a job that I would not want. And I had this safety girl at ATS when I was with Anderson. She was awesome. She'd call me to the carpet when I needed it occasionally, but we had a good relationship. Well, I was at a customer in New York, and I was pulling out from their driveway out into the road, and my trailer disconnected from my truck. And which, that's a scary, feeling. So
Are you blaming the trailer on this or the truck on this or the driver on this?
I'll tell you, no, it was the fifth wheel. We had to replace the fifth wheel.
Oh, okay.
And
right.
so I'm like, oh my God, what the hell happened? So I thrash around, I get the thing hooked back up and I back it in to the shipper and I tug test it and check. And I'm like, okay, well, I mean, I don't know, it's a fluke, So I called the maintenance people and I said, I don't know, man. I've never all of my career, I've never had a fifth wheel come unhooked like that. And that's scary, to think about driving down the road. I was in upstate New York somewhere and I was about 5 miles from a TA. And they said, They said, well, take it over to the TA. I said, what part of fifth wheel disconnected did you not understand? They said, well, we're not sending a road call over there for that. You know, is it disconnecting again? And I'm like, no. And I tug tested. No, it's not coming disconnected. And they said, well, go to the TA. So I crawled like 25 miles an hour, you know, because I was just terrified that this thing was going to disconnect again. And it did when I got to the TA. I pulled around the fuel aisle and pulled up beside the shop, and kabloom, and that son of a bitch disconnected again. And I'm like, okay, not a fluke. Something's seriously wrong with this fifth wheel.
Right.
So, of course, I'm sure you can probably tell me what TA told me. We don't work on fifth wheels.
We don't fix fifth wheels.
So I had
Liability.
So you know,
but your safety guy didn't think it was a liability issue for you to drive it 5 miles.
Right. So well, that's coming. So I secured the trailer, and there was a shop literally down the street, and I bobtailed over there. They put a rebuild kit in it. I went back over, hooked to the trailer, disconnected again, and I'm like, screw it, we're putting a whole new plate. So I went back over there, replaced the whole fifth wheel. So now we're good. So I don't know, it's a couple days or a week or so later, and I'm just chatting with the safety girl about something. And she's like, oh, how's you been going? And I said, well, I had a fifth wheel disconnect. That was kind of scary. And I'm not even thinking. And I tell her this story, and she goes, full stop. You told these morons that you had a fifth wheel disconnect, and they told you to drive it to the truck stop. And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, and you did? Yeah, I sure did. She's like, what the hell is wrong with you? Have you lost your, I mean, she lit my ass up. And then she wanted the name and phone number of so I guess she must have walked downstairs to the maintenance department and just cleaned house, because she was hot, with good reason. So Carl, brother, I wish you the best of luck, because I can't listen. Can you imagine? I would need medication if I was in safety.
Well,
you know,
Carl, if you don't mind, tell us what your background is on this deal when you get a chance. So over on YouTube, got one I want to talk about, Chris. Lonnie Norris.
Yeah.
The
So
failure rate at Landstar is huge. Why are they failing if you're able to get $3 per mile like you guys average? Well, there's a couple of reasons to that. Number one, everybody's not getting $3 a mile because everybody's not as good as us. Okay. So I don't know what the other people who are failing are getting, but let me give you a little history lesson here. I've got the best dispatcher, the best fleet manager, the best load planner in the country, in the world, actually. Now he has a belt to prove that. He had two dispatch customers last year that he put over $500,000 worth of freight in each of those trucks. Neither of those people are currently, well, one of them just started back, but both of those guys went out of business at Landstar. So it's not the rate per mile. That's what this whole program is about. It's if you can take in all the money that you can take in, but if you don't hold on to it, what good is it? Handling money doesn't give you success. Keeping money does. And so the people that fail at Landstar typically are horrible business people. Amigo is a good example how they don't understand the market, don't understand that they serve a customer, and Landstar doesn't owe them shit. That's usually a big player into this failure rate. And the other thing is they're just not they. I tell you, I say this all the time. Most people do not need to come to Landstar because they're not mature enough in business to do it.
Nope.
They think they're going to come to because they don't even have the description right. I work for Landstar. Well, no, you don't. That you don't understand the relationship when you start. So how in the world are you going to make it when you get here? People will buy a truck just to come to Landstar. How big a mistake could that possibly be? I'm going to go buy a truck to bring it to Landstar. So I've got no experience as an owner operator, and I'm going to go to Landstar where there is no support system whatsoever by design, not a negative, by design. So I mean, they're failed from the beginning, and that's the whole purpose of this program. And we can't help everybody. We can't even help some people. We can help a few people, but if we can help a few people avoid making those mistakes, then it's all worth it, for us to do it. But it has nothing to do with the rate per mile. It has zero to do with the rate per mile, actually. So,
I mean, I was at Landstar 3 years and I failed. right? And
Twice.
my numbers were awesome. You know, my revenue numbers were fantastic. Um, Somebody asked in TikTok. Well, I'll put my glasses back on so I can see what the hell I'm reading. Other than salary, do you have a goal for your expenses and fuel at or below as a percent of truck gross? We do. Um, and we'll get into that in a second. But I didn't fail as an owner operator because I couldn't book loads. I didn't fail because I couldn't drive a truck. I'm excellent truck driver. I can put a truck anywhere you want one to be. Okay, there's nowhere that I can't. When it comes to operating a truck, nothing I can't do. Okay, but running a business, and for whatever reason, there's a psychological thing in this industry. If you were going to open, a friend of mine owns a thrift shop, you know, sells used clothes and stuff. Like I would think that if you had to go rent the building and find the inventory and do the payroll and all the stuff that it takes to run that, there would be a different switch that flips in your head. But for truck drivers, it's like, well, I can drive a truck. I can be an owner operator. No, you have to run a business, and a business is run the way we run one. But that's why we're lunatics for TikTok. It's why it says lunatics on the page. It says it right on the screen. We're called lunatics because we run a trucking business the way anybody else in any other industry would run a business, but we don't do it how trucking does it. Because trucking, this industry will lie to you. It will try to convince you to do things that are not beneficial to you as the business owner. That's great for the banks and the carriers and the trucking companies and the OEMs and all that stuff. It's great for them, but sucks for you. Puts you out of business. So that's, I mean, and so, you know, we know that we want to have, our goal is a 15% deadhead. Now it's been 20% this year because we've had to go further to find those loads than we'd like to. But Larry can tell you probably off the top of his head what our fuel as a percentage of revenue is, and what our driver cost as a percentage of revenue, and what our maintenance is as a percentage of revenue, because he inputs the numbers every single week. And it's those habits that make the difference. I had some fun with our drivers because we had the entire fleet in West Virginia for the event, and we brought everybody in. Every driver was in the room, and I said, "Hey, everybody, go ahead and open up your spreadsheets." And they all just looked at me like I had three heads. You know, and I told them on day one, if you want to be in business, you're going to have to learn how to create the habits of entering every load and writing things down, you know. And every single one of them looked at me like, yeah, about that.
Yeah, about that. Well, Lonnie, your follow up there. If you're buying this truck to come to Landstar and you have no prior business experience, I cannot stress to you any stronger than to not do that. That would be a mistake. So I'm just being honest with you. Okay,
It's hard.
so
It's worth it,
yeah,
but it's hard.
But if you don't have, you do, first of all, looking for a good company. That's a little trigger for me right there. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
because what makes it a good company? You know, is it Amigo's deal, not letting him a load get canceled on him and taking care of him? If that's what you're looking for, you're coming to the wrong place. It's a good company because the opportunity is there, and there's no ceiling. There's no advantage that I have over you. There's no restriction to what you can do there, but it's all about you. And if you don't have the ability to take advantage of the opportunity, you will fail. And if you're buying a truck for the first time and you're coming to Landstar and it's your first experience in business, you will fail. I'm sorry, but you will.
Because Lord knows the Landstar orientation doesn't do anything to prepare you. God
Yeah.
almighty. What was that Seth was talking about? Like they had a
Well,
guy.
he had to go to orientation, and there was something they didn't even mention. What was it? He called us and asked us about it. It was something that was, well, maybe it was when they get the settlements or something, or it was something very basic to being in business.
Okay.
They didn't even cover it.
So the guy's never driven a truck or owned a truck, but
Oh, this
dadgum,
is the presenter. Yeah, presenter.
he's teaching everyone how to operate their business. Never
Yeah.
covered IFTA.
Okay.
Never covered IFTA or fuel purchasing,
Right. Well, that's probably
which
a
I
good
guess
thing.
is a good thing given the
That's probably a
information
good
would have been
thing.
inaccurate.
Yeah, yeah.
And he said he asked the lady sitting next to her if they'd cover that stuff in the first day. She said no, and said they never went over any of the apps either, just how to navigate Landstar online from a desktop. He had to show her and a couple other people how to scan their paperwork through TransFlow and how to find fuel on Landstar 1.
So a guy that came through our program knew more about how to work, how to teach the Landstar system to people with orientation than the Landstar orientation presenter did. So that tells you anything. So
Yeah.
listen, everybody thinks that we do not represent Landstar. You know, Landstar has lots of faults, lots of problems. I mean, my God, we could talk about them all night. But in spite of all that, it's still the best opportunity that I can find in business and trucking for us to run a business the way we want to run a business, you know, without the ceiling, without the restrictions. I mean, yes, I have to explain to them every time I talk to them that I'm a fleet. But again, the rewards are way more than worth the trouble. But I don't have to depend, we don't depend on them for our survival. You know, we survive in spite of them. We survive because of the things that they allow us to do. You know, we survive because we solve our own problems. You know,
Yep.
And we don't need anybody else's help. We just need you to get. We need the rule book, and we need you to get the hell out of the way and let us go to work. That's all we need.
Yep.
And Landstar does that.
I mean,
But to guys like Amigo, that's not enough. They need the rule book. Well, they're not going to read it anyway. They need to get out of the hell of the way, but they don't. Now I need you to come back and help me because this agent has fucked me over because he canceled my loan. I was just 10 minutes away from the. I mean, you're never going to make it at Landstar if that's what you need. Never. Never.
Do we govern our trucks in order to achieve good MPGs? No.
No. If we have to govern our trucks, we've got the wrong guys behind the wheel. We're teaching people how to be in business and stay in business. Governing the trucks doesn't teach them to stay in business. It makes them comply to your idea of business, but it doesn't teach them a damn thing. So no, we do not do that. We teach them to get good fuel mileage because they want to attain it. And we have this little peer pressure thing we do every Sunday where we post all the fuel mileage. And if you look on there and you're the last guy, maybe you don't feel so good about yourself this week and you try a little harder. And now we have people that are driving trucks that with drivers before were getting substandard, and these drivers are getting above standard, and nothing was done to the truck. So that would not happen if we govern the trucks. There'd be no educational value in that. No, there's no motivation in that. You know, it almost going back to my union argument. Doesn't matter what you do, everybody does the same thing, and that's not what we're looking for here. We're looking for critical thinking, teaching you how to do the things, not forcing you to do the things.
Sorry.
Well, the room got quiet.
Well, I got a driver texting me. Oh, okay. I'll have to delete that later. Steve, what is your process to find a part for the truck? OEM numbers for that part. Well, I have a good.
One I call a dealership. I can tell you that.
Well, I have a good relationship with the parts manager at our local Freightliner dealer. I can text him if I need to. Our Detroit shop here, they're connected to a Freightliner dealership. Those guys are my go-to, and they're really, really good. Shop's useless, but the parts guys are really sharp. I called yesterday. On the front of a Detroit Series 60, there's these covers. They're like accessory drive covers. And we had a leak. Somebody put RTV, and I'm like, I wonder if there's a gasket that goes for that. And so I called Steve, and I'm like, hey, you know those plates? Is there a gasket? He goes, oh yeah, it's an 029 83 150. You know, he just rattled off the part number. I'm like, I need 2 of those, please. You know, there's nothing better than a good parts guy, and there's nothing worse than a bad one. Holy crap!
Yeah.
And that local Freightliner dealer just had a guy, like almost 40-year parts guy, just retired. I mean, I'm waiting for the ceiling to collapse in on that place, because he's the guy that you could just call, and he could just rattle it off, So with them, everything starts with a VIN number, right? But really, where it starts with is relationship, because there are some dealers you can call and they'll, I can say, listen, man, I'm in a pickle here. I'm trying to find this part. They don't have it in stock. Will you give me the part number and I'll Google it? Some will, some won't. I get well, we don't give out part numbers. Okay, well, fuck you then, but usually I can find somebody that will. If they literally don't have it in stock, I'm like, guys, I'm sitting on the side of the road. Okay, I got to find a part. Can you give me a part number? Can you do the dealer lookup? Tell me the dealer that does have it. I'll call them and have it ship them overnight. Yesterday, or when I went to pick up the truck that burned, and it didn't burn. I mean, wires burned. We're gonna put it back together.
Wires burned up. Yeah,
it didn't burn. The truck didn't burn down.
There was fire coming out from under the hood, but it was just some wiring. So.
Fixable. Anyway, I had this other truck that I'm trying to get ready for this driver, because now he doesn't have a truck that runs. But I had a leak on the input seal for the power steering box. And so Sean, Chris's guy, had found me one, but they weren't going to have it till Tuesday. And I'm like, well, I need this sooner than that. So first I called FIDA Freightliner, because I was going to be driving right by them. They were useless. And I said, well, because it's Columbus, Ohio. I'm thinking, God, there's shops all over the place. And they're like, I don't know anybody. So I just start going to Google and I start calling. I finally got a Fleet Pride. And he says, well, we've got a supplier here in Westerville. Let me call them. So he called them. They had this kind of master kit for this thing. It had a bunch of stuff that I didn't need, but it did have the two seals that I need. It was $90. And he told me, this place, Power Steering Specialist, I think. He's like, dude, these people have forgotten more than the rest of us will ever know. So write that down. Columbus, Ohio, Power Steering Specialist. And so I swung by there on my way to get the truck. I picked up the part from Fleet Pride. I put it in today, and I guess I'll find out here about an hour if it worked. If he's still got power steering fluid when he gets where he's going, we'll know that it worked.
The biggest thing is just not depend on the dealership to find it for you. That's the big thing, because that they won't, number one, and they're not going to be near as persistent as you're going to be, because you need it. They don't. They go home at 5 o'clock. They care less. So, like Chris says, find the part number, and then just do the work yourself, and don't take no for an answer. And do not believe national back order. That's a cop out.
It's bullshit.
I can't tell you how many parts we found in 10 minutes that were on national back order, because we don't allow them to do the research for us. So,
yep.
Chris Seth Matthews on here, and he's one of our former mentoring clients, and he's just finished his first year at Landstar. Well, congratulations, Seth. I knew you'd be all right. You're a good guy.
David McDuffie. I'm a BCO with Landstar. Would like to know more about Blue Ribbon. BlueRibbonLogistics.com. There's a tab for BCO mentoring. You can go read about that. We do have mentoring services that we offer that can help kind of flatten the curve for you. So go check out BlueRibbonLogistics.com. All the information is there. And we're on episode 177. So you ain't got nothing else to do but drive and listen to us. We got a TikTok page where, I'm when I do something to a truck, I post a video of it. But all of our principles are lined out in previous episodes going back to 49. So from 49 to 176, I'm sure there's lots of information in there that can help you.
And if your operator number starts with a 0, you've been there for a long time. That must be a misprint.
Yeah. Strong work ethic is on national back order.
So is common sense and critical thinking, by the way.
Yeah. What's that thing? Common sense and deodorant are the same. The people that need them the most use them the least.
Leave them the least. Yeah, exactly.
Well, there's
Be best. So I buy the truck, you get the driver, and we split it. Well, theoretically, but no.
yeah, we've already talked about that. We're very selective with people that we bring in as partners. There's a
We don't
ray of
take them.
there's a ray of sunshine in our comment section. Amber Cunningham,
I see that.
Richie's better half.
I still cannot figure out what Richie has done to convince her to marry him. I don't know what drugs that he used, but I sure like to know. So
um, yeah. So David, check us out
yeah,
on the website, and there's a form you can fill out. And oh, there he is, there, Richie Matthews. I see him. He was being quiet.
where is he? I don't see him.
He just
Oh,
commented on
there he
YouTube.
is. There he is. Oh, damn! I missed a whole lot of comments there. I'm way
Well,
back.
Amber's going back and forth with everybody.
Oh, I
so.
see. Amber's using up all the bandwidth right now.
Right. Yeah. Well, women, that's what they do.
Yeah, yeah. Watch out there.
Let's see.
Steve, it was really good meeting you, by the way, at the event. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was our first international guest, come all the way
Wow,
from
David, that's really your
Canadian.
wow. You have been there for a long time. Well, shoot, we might have to learn from you. You might not. We might have to. You might have to teach us a thing or two. So, well, thanks for listening and watching or whatever you're doing, and we look forward to talking to you. Sure.
Let's see. I got any more comments over here? I don't see any.
Well, it's 9:30.
Yeah, and I'm running on about a half a tank.
I know you're wore out.
God, I
And
am. That sun baked my ass for 5 hours. God Almighty, it was hot.
I know.
Well, let me check the tracker and see if that truck's still running. It is.
All right.
He made it to his destination, so he's
looks like Barb's going to need some advice from you here.
I saw that.
Load.
Listen, he's out of the warranty period. He made it to the end of the driveway and past 30 minutes, so the warranty is expired. And he made it. He made it like 150 miles and nothing blew up.
Yeah,
So
yeah. He needs
wait
a
a
blue
minute.
drink. No, Amber, he does not need a blue drink. All right.
Wait a minute.
She's an enabler. You know that?
She is.
And what's the other word I want to use? Instigator. That's the word.
Yeah, definitely an enabler. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, no doubt.
Listen, if I had a blue drink, I wouldn't make it to the bed. I'd just fall over right here. So,
if y'all don't know, at the event, we did the podcast live from the event, and Amber was there, and she was sort of running drinks back and forth, and she kept bringing Chris these blue drinks, and I won't say what the name of them is on. I don't know why we say it all the time, but anyway, they're big and they're got 14 different kinds of alcohol in them, and so I think
and a
after
splash
two
of
of them,
Sprite.
Chris, do what?
And a splash of Sprite. It's like six
after two
liquors.
of them, Chris's forehead was on the microphone like this. So,
yeah.
And that was on Friday night, and we had the event on Saturday and Sunday, and he was about half strength the rest of the weekend.
Yeah. That was rough. Yeah, well,
all right, guys. Well, I think we ought to call today. So
let me check.
We'll be back to Friday night next week, back to normal.
Well, let me check the calendar real quick, cause, could we do?
Oh, look at here! The video evidence is here. Amber, I went back and watched the live on the second drink, and he tapped on the table, so he wanted it. That's not on me. I knew that would come out.
Looking at the calendar, could we do Saturday? Because we have an away volleyball game on Friday.
Let me look at my calendar. Let me look. Are we talking about next week?
Yeah.
No, we can't. Well, that's the 9th, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can do Saturday.
Okay, I think we're going to do Saturday because we've got a volleyball game in Kentucky, and I know Karen's not going to drive herself over there. So.
All right. Well, I just moved it on my calendar to Saturday, so you'll have to make the announcement. So Saturday next weekend. So
yeah.
Well, don't forget our sponsor, Pittsburgh Power. Okay, great repair shop, great performance parts. Obviously, we are big proponents of the OPS oil purification system and the max mileage fuel catalyst. We also are stocking distributors of those products. So go to our website, www.blueribbonlogistics.com, and then go to the store and you put your order in, and we'll direct ship to you. Or if you're coming through West Virginia, Chris will meet you and hand them to you. So, and there'll be no freight if you do it that way. So, we appreciate you, and we'll everybody have a great holiday tomorrow. Be safe. Don't do anything crazy, like drinking blue drinks.
Yeah.
And we will we'll see you in a week or so. Okay. So,
Yep. We'll see y'all
all right.
next week.